Oh, hey everybody, and here I am in the year 2011. A much simpler time when Donald Trump as the president was a silly inside joke, memes looked like this, Game of Thrones was good, watching the latest Marvel movie didn't feel like homework, and the biggest internet sensation was a talking fruit. But since I came here from the future, I must make sure that I don't do anything that would cause a butterfly effect onto the future. Otherwise the whole universe would end or something, I don't know. I really wish I didn't drop out of time travel studies back in high school. And I don't think taking the 3DS XL model with me was my brightest idea either. But as long as I play around with people from this time period and not say anything drastically different, I think we should all be fine.
Gee, have you heard they were making a new LEGO movie?
Are you kidding? That would never work.
What did you just say?
Dillon's Rolling Western, an early hitter on the 3DS. In this turn events game, you play as an armadillo bounty hunter called Dillon, and you defend villages from invading enemies. Unlike most turn events games, you freely roam around the area and collect resources, preparing for when the enemies strike. For this, you use the circle pad to move around, and use the touchscreen to make Dillon curl up in a ball like a wheel or Terrible Sonic OC. Pretty awkward at first, and wow, thanks for giving me a broken tendon, Dillon! But you soon get used to it. However, when enemies come by, you curl up to attack your opponents. Aside the weird controls, this is a neat spin on the tower defense genre, and Dillon's design is perfect for this game. He's an assist trophy in Smash for a reason. The sequel, The Last Ranger, is just more the same with a fake mustache and fedora hat stapled on. Yet Dante Breakers is quite different. For starters, the game thankfully has button controls and a Mad Max style to its art direction, unlike the Western approach from the latter two. There are also characters called Amimals, which is Mies as animals. Pretty lazy and off-putting character designs if you ask me, and look as if they're about to audition for cats. The game itself still has the tower defense gameplay from before, but now has Amimals defending the base, and neat race battles with Dillon in between to make things more refreshing. And that's not to say the graphics are incredible for a late 3DS game. Unlike the first two games, it did receive a physical release, but not in North America. And copies are cheap, so viewers over in the States might want to import this game. By far the best in the series, but still far from amazing. Hana Samurai Art of the Sword, another early one. In this, you're a samurai facing off against multiple enemies through your journey to save a kidnapped princess, whilst being taught by this reject from that Michael Bay Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. He at least still looks better than those Amimals. The art style does look nice, and for the game itself, you simply lock on enemies and time your dodges as they attack, and then attack back. Whilst basic, is really fulfilling and can give a good challenge with some enemies, particularly the bosses, feeling as if a ballet performer made a Souls-like. It's good fun to get out, and the 3DS's portability makes this a great pick-up and play game. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm finally talking about the mainline Pokémon Virtual Console games. The most interesting releases of this lot, mainly as they don't use restore and suspend points, and cost more than twice as any other Game Boy game on here. These are probably my way to play the first two generations of this series, putting the remakes aside. While the games are more or less the same as you remember them, there are interesting additions. Yellow's Pikachu surfing minigame is preserved from Pokemon Stadium, you can transfer Pokemon wirelessly, transfer them to bank and then home to the newer games, not that you want to play the newer games, and even bring out the menu by pressing X! Since physical cartridges are a hassle due to counterfeits and dying save batteries, it's a must-buy worth picking up right now. Forget what I just said. Well, I was going to talk about Kururin, as that's a unique Japan-only puzzle franchise which got a game in Europe and Australia, but not America for some reason. But it just had to be added to the Switch Online expansion pack. So here's Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon instead, a remake of the first Fire Emblem game. I had to say, DS games are pretty peculiar on the Wii U, especially when you play it on the TV. I honestly think they would have fitted the 3DS a lot better. It's backwards compatible and DSiWare is on there, so... For the game itself, it's a much more fleshed out experience compared to the Famicom original, with better graphics, UI, gameplay, and everything. Unlike the original release, this version now lets the online shop with hard-to-find items offline. Something similar happened with Animal Crossing Wild World's virtual console release. I barely see people play New Horizons nowadays, so why bother talking about Wild World? Back to Shadow Dragon, this is a great remake, and since this was before Awakening revived interest in the franchise, should I even bother finishing this sentence? But hey, you could always get the original Famicom game on Switch, never mind. And whilst we're on the topic of Fire Emblem Fates. What makes this installment unique is that you could choose your own path in the game with either your blood family or the family you were raised by in between a war, where you side with your blood family in Birthright and adopted family in Conquest. Yet there is a unique third path only easily available via DLC, Revelation, where you don't pick either side. It's a shame to see an integral part of the game's story vanish like this, and make this game feel like a jigsaw puzzle with some missing pieces. Much like the other FP games on 3DS, also having DLC. In fact, the all-in-one game was delisted on the eShop a month before the closure in February. Now Revelation is thankfully preserved physically in special edition releases of the game, alongside Birthright and Conquest on one cartridge, and this is why we can't have nice things. Here's hoping for a complete definitive edition in the future. Like that'll ever happen.
Whoa! What was that all about? Huh, Skylanders is coming out.
Weapon Shop de Omasse, yet another installment to Level 5's Guild series, with this game being developed by comedian Yoshiyuki Harai. I've heard of celebrity-comedians making their own animated shows and failing miserably, but thankfully I don't think that curse applies to video games. At least with this one. It takes place in a failing blacksmith shop where you rent weapons to various RPG characters, and even has a sitcom aesthetic to it, with a live studio audience and everything. You know that 80s family sitcom I Meme a while back? This game predated that by 11 years. To make weapons, you play a Parappa the Rapper-like rhythm game on the touchscreen to forge the weapons, polish said weapons, rinse into the characters, and rinse and repeat. Despite sounding like much, they all go together really well like peanut butter and jelly and a deer and cat. You can hang around for a good while though if you've got nothing to do and your customers are out and about, and the grindcast or banter for customers can feel distracting at points. More so when forging, but at least show pretty funny remarks from them here and there. Though critics were initially divided with this one back in the day, it's a rather charming game, cool spin on JRPG tropes, and really makes you appreciate blacksmiths more in these games. Nobody cares about the blacksmiths. Our next and final guild game, Crimson Shroud, developed by talent behind Final Fantasy XII. This is your typical RPG which is highly influenced by tabletop games like Dungeons & Dragons, with the gameplay mechanics in that the characters don't even move. They are just immobile figurines. As mentioned earlier, the game takes elements from tabletop RPGs, as for some parts, you roll varied die to determine the effect of your move. The production values are great for an eShop game, and tabletop fans will surely enjoy this one. And that's all the games in this little series I'll cover. They were quite interesting releases, and definitely had variety with at least one game everyone can individually have a blast with. There are two other games in this series, but on to Wii Sports Club. Essentially the original Wii Sports, but the 5 games are remade with Motion Plus and the Wii U gamepad in mind. While the likes of tennis and bowling are largely the same, baseball and golf both use the gamepad, with baseball using the Wii remote for batting and gamepad for pitching and catching the ball, whilst golf uses the gamepad to display the ball and use the Wii remote to hit. Clever idea, but a bit of a nuisance lining the two up. In boxing, using 2 remotes for each fist, but does offer a way to use one remote, and controls as well as you'd imagine. What makes this game that more interesting is that in the veins of a country club, you could rent these games for 24 hours. Perfect for the cheapskates at my old high school. Or buy each separate game permanently. I don't want to meet the guy who rented these. It did get a physical release, but you're probably better off with the original game. You could already play it on the Wii U, and the more basic controls are somewhat better, so what's really the point? And without any seamless transitions, the eShop Rapid Fire bonus round to appeal Crash Bots, a bizarre yet truly fun Zuma-like puzzle game, Pokemon Dream Raid, or a cute little AR game where you catch Dreamers and Pokemon, and it even has bonus items for Black and White 2. Balloon Pop Remix, despite like those Nightmare Fuel YouTube Kids videos, it's a decent puzzle game casual fans would certainly enjoy. Dr. Luigi, a Dr. Mario spin-off, released as part of the highly successful year of Luigi back in 2013, and after playing it, I think you're better off at Miracle Cure. Why did I spend $13.49 on this? The Parascientific Escape Trilogy saw cheap visual novel games with interesting characters and puzzles. We can have too much text going on. I get that's the whole appeal. Why do these games have to give you so much text? The special Pokemon demos giving you a good taste of what mainline Pokemon games play like, and has neat bonuses with Sun and Moon giving you Ash Ninja from the anime. Undead Bowling, self-explanatory, where you pull out on zombies with a bowling ball and get the high score. It won't get you through a zombie apocalypse, but it's the very least serviceable. Super Mario Bros. How many of these games are there? Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, a neat handheld port of the NES Classic with lots of additional content, and this great country can make it feel like it just ran over a deer. Gurumin 3D, an okay port of the PSP action RPG Heads and Gems, despite some audio hiccups. Pokemon Rumble U, which I'm pretty sure was only made to sell these random amiibo predecessors than for the deep gameplay itself. Why did I spend $13.49? Mania 3D! During the media renaissance of birds, and plays like your typical runner game for mobile games around the time, and if this ain't your thing, there's always Mania Christmas 3D. Or if not, then there's Mania Party on the Wii U. It's overkill, but hey, I bet he'd like it.
Huh! More 2011 though. Gotta act natural. Gee, that Justin Bieber pipsqueak sure does suck, right?
Yeah, and you know what else I can't stand? Those friggin' Twilight movies.
Why don't even get me started!
Wii U Panorama View, released quite early in the Wii U's life to help Nintendo justify the gamepad's existence. For these, you have pre-recorded panoramas of real-life places and move the gamepad around to change your view and take in the scenery. There are 4 of these applications as well as a free trailer, and do a good job making you feel kind of immersed, and has surprising production values in some cases. Though I think the video quality could have been better, it's definitely a decent recommend for parties and introverts. Time for our next game, Bricks Defender. Oh, this looks familiar. I should probably check who made this game.
If you see that name on any 3DS and Wii U eShop game, run. You know how the angry video game nerd has LJN as his arch-nemesis game developer. Essentially New Game are my personal LJN and have made quite a reputation on this series, and it looks like they clearly haven't learnt their lesson with this stinker. This is one of the most boring interactive experiences in a video game, as it's not very interactive. There's little to no geometry or physics in this game. The ball is incredibly frustrating as it can change its own direction, which is a sin for these types of games, and when it doesn't act like a DVD logo, you just sit there having it bounce up and down over and over. Look, it bent its own direction, even the game itself knows. Not to mention the music sounds like a bunch of cats being skinned alive, and they don't even flow into each other seamlessly. But that's not all. You could have gotten this miserable, unengaging joke of a game for $8.99, more money than Portal 2. How could you allow to sell this pile of regurgitated horse puke on your storefront, Nintendo, and for this much at that? And with that, the game sucks and may possibly be everything wrong with shovelware.
Okay, I'll need to sanitize myself with the game rates at 66 on Metacritic now. Kirby Fighters Deluxe, an expanded port of the minigame for Triple Deluxe, which essentially works like Smash Bros, but with different Kirby costume abilities. The game itself is fine, fun, and neat for Kirby fans, but can be lacking for a 629 game for some. There is multiplayer too, but it got a sequel on Switch, so this isn't nearly as necessary. But Dedede's Drum Dash Deluxe is a bit more interesting. Once again, an expanded release of the minigame for Triple Deluxe. This game has you take Dedede to the end of each level, jumping between drums in beat to the music, and even encourages players to smack your tambourine midair throughout the song to keep a combo going. This is nice fun, and the remix tunes are great. Yet the content in this 629 game is minuscule. But then again, New Game could have made it. With that in mind, I think you should rather treat this game like a Netflix original animated series. You'll certainly have a good time with it, but you know it's not gonna last. Oh gee, Ed, what about Team Kirby Clash Deluxe? It's free to play and got a Switch port. Moving on. Zen Pinball 3D, a nice little collection of pinball tables, each having a lot of personality and life. There are 4 tables with their own unique twists and gimmicks, and are a blast to play and get out once in a while. You can just barely replicate these in real life. That's how creative they are. There are also different camera angles you could adjust to, and it's very immersive 3D. I even had to dial it down a bit. There's another one on Wii U, Zen Pinball 2, which is just pinball again, but is free to play with free trials, and you need to pay for the tables. Yet this exact game's on PS3, Vita, and 4, so you don't need to worry about this game as much. Yet 3D is a great cheap way to play pinball on the go.
Whoa! There it is again! It's like I broke some time codes or something. Now I gotta be more careful, and I must make sure to stay out of things.
Oh boy! I can't wait to give all my money to J.K. Rowling!
Can't wait!
Chibi Robo Let's Go Photo. Yeah, Ziplash wasn't the only Chibi Robo game on here. A small installment of the series that somehow ended up reviewing worse in a polarizing game I somewhat unironically like. That was an April Fool's joke. Let's Go Photo plays more like a traditional game in the series, where here you help a museum curator gather objects to display in his museum, and to do so, you use the 3DS camera to take photos and have Chibi Robo pick up those objects to eventually display. Yet in between, you do errands for all kinds of zany and charming characters to eventually get frames to take pictures with, as well as exploring the place and cleaning up after them. I can definitely see the appeal of this series after playing this, and I don't think it deserved the low scores it got. But then again, this came out when people stopped caring about the 3DS camera, and I don't think the high asking price helped them much either. It's not a must-buy or anything, but rather let this be an opportunity for Chibi Robo to pick up your DVD of Shrek 2. Like, no wonder he stopped getting games. This is where the franchise peaked. Resident Evil The Mercenaries 3D. While that has a physical release as common as peanuts, here's the thing. This came out around the time that major AAA companies had strong vendettas against used games, particularly EA locking online multiplayer behind download codes. And for this game, you can't delete your save data on physical cartridges. Pretty scummy. But for the game itself, it's a more fleshed out version of the Mercenaries minigame from the Resident Evil games, more so 5 in this case. Not much to say, but as a fun multiplayer romp with solid single player content, great graphics for an early 3DS game, and plenty of playable mainstay characters like Chris and Jill, but no Leon for some reason. Not necessary, but should do the trick for RE fans, and with the Resident Evil 4 remake out, now's a better time than ever. Pokémon Link Battle, a puzzle game by the folks at Genius Sonority, where here you go through puzzles battling against other wild Pokémon by stringing together combos to give a lot of damage, kind of like Puzzle and Dragons. There's a lot of them here, both as enemies and as the pieces, having all 718 at the time. It can be really satisfying when making high combos, and you even unlock some hidden Pokémon in those stages if you do so. For what you pay for has a healthy amount of content, and if you want to get the gist of things, there is also a free-to-play version on here on mobile called Pokémon Shuffle. And it's free to play alright. Anyway, Pokémon fans will certainly have fun with this puzzle game, and again, the combos can be pretty satisfying. Pokédex 3D Pro. Originally a free application at the launch of the eShop, but since got a more enhanced paid version. This is basically an interactive encyclopedia of the first 5 generations of Pokémon, with each having 3D models, animations, and facts. It even has AR compatibility for some reason, as well as trivia games. The asking price may have been too high for some, and pretty outdated now that we have over 1,000 of these critters, with 3D Pro going up to 649. But I think diehard fans of the series would get a kick out of this application. Why did I spend $13? Finally, the Street Pass DLC games. Back when the 3DS first launched, we also got a pre-installed application called Street Pass, where you take your 3DS around, and when bumping into other systems, you collect their Miis for you to use in its games. That sounded much worse when explained. It's a cute little time killer for sure, but the problem is that Street Pass is more dead than this channel. As for when I went to New York 3 years ago, just right before the... This is your last warning. I only encountered one guy! the biggest city in the world, and that's it. Maybe it's because I went to the Nintendo store twice, but still. Anyhow, Nintendo released 11 games onto it as DLC over the years, with the highlights being a surprisingly neat shoot-'em-up, an interesting Haunted Mansion Labyrinth game, zombie apocalypse beat-'em-up, quirky Angry Birds like Cannon game, simple yet fun slot car game you could get for free in between that and a stock market game. Did anybody pick the stock market game? You could also get Street Pass Premium for under 5 bones. It may not add that much, but it's still a damn sight better than YouTube Premium. I'll never be enough dang Matt Smiths in the world to say otherwise. For the games, you could even earn vouchers to give yourself new costumes and greeting bubbles to customize your Mii with. Though you may want to stock up with play coins to play these nowadays, these are still nice fun games to get out when out and about. Like seriously, who the heck chose that stock market game over the slot car one?
You know, I think I'm starting to fit into this time period perfectly. I just wish I could stay here forever. Darn pigeons. Again? Wait, how did they get the sun? And why is the ground still rumbling? I guess my actions do have consequences after all.
I found you.
Man, this day keeps on getting weirder. You go back in time only to have a rhombus hunt you down. Like, what do you want from me?
I am the Time Guardian, where it's my role to monitor the timeline of, well, time itself, and iron out old time anomalies like you. For you have violated Time Code 3261. Disrupt the past time continuity enough to severely jeopardize the timeline's stability.
That was much easier explained here than in Loki.
Tell me about it. But what caused you to commit such a violation?
You see, I came for the year 2023, and once the Nintendo 3DS and Wii U was about to close, I may have had a bit of a strop and traveled back here so I could never experience the closure for myself.
That's it? You selfish fool! Because of your own actions, the whole universe will collapse on itself. It cannot handle such anomalies.
I kinda called that.
Now get back to 2023, Anomaly.
No!
But the whole universe will crumble.
But the whole universe will crumble!
Listen! So you're seriously willing to let the whole universe and everyone in it die just for Pokemon Link Battle?
Well, if you put it that way, oh! I'm sure there's a misunderstanding. You see, there's that Marty McFly kid who traveled back in time to the 50s, and his younger mother is now developing feelings for him. And he's okay with it!
Really, Anomaly? That's the oldest excuse in the Time Traveler's book.
Look, I like it here. I never felt more at home. Nobody in social media criticizes you for every mundane thing you do. Sells a CGI YouTube boost for all the rage. TikTok doesn't exist. It'll be 2 years before letting go ruin society. And besides, what could possibly make me say otherwise? Okay, I'm ready to go back now.
Are you sure? Because if you do this, I will grant you a pardon for your actions, and you can time travel to your heart's content. Responsibly, of course. But you can never purchase another game on those toys.
I'm sure. Plus, I forgot to change the calendar.
Alright then. See you around, Anomaly.
Here goes.
Well, that was easy. Time to check out that Marty McFly to see if he's not making out with his mother again.
Oh man, my head. When a Time Guardian takes you back to the present, never take the express route. Alright, let's go into the eShop. That's weird. I can't find any games. Let's try again. Maybe something to do with the Wi-Fi. It's not great, not horrible. Does the job. Don't do this to me, eShop. Okay, let's try the Wii U. Can't find it either. Maybe they're serious about this closure the whole time. Say something, eShop. Show a garbage shovelware game or outdated NES title, like you always do. Don't leave me, eShop. Can you hear me? eShop. eShop. eShop! It was going to happen eventually. If anything, I'm impressed with how long it lasted. More so the Wii U. Throughout this whole ordeal, we lost a lot of games. Some good, some bad, and Japanese rail sim 3D fight types of trains. And there are even more out there I didn't cover, like some of the Ace Attorney games, Nintendo Pocket Football Club, Chase Cold Case Investigations, Bickley's Revenge, and Automatic Long, whose developer Luke Vincent actually commented on one of my videos. So thanks for that, Luke Vincent, yet at the same time, why? While some have thankfully been preserved by other means via physical releases, DLC preserved in their games' later re-releases, or on other platforms in general, it's sad to see the likes of Poblox, Attack of the Friday Monsters, and Affordable Space Adventures lost with no official re-releases, whereas others like Ironfall Invasion and Steel Rivals are better off as the game's time forgot. And even games like Fire Emblem Fates and Smash 4 now feel incomplete without their DLC. If anything, they're all now more interesting because of this, and that's not covering how much this will hurt the second-hand market, particularly for the Virtual Console, unless you have a Switch Online memberships, especially since we recently got Game Boy games. Which would have been great a year ago! And lest we forget customizable themes and DSiWare, two other stores worth of games and content lost to time as well. The only way you can play these games now is either if you bought them prior to the closure, or emulate the games whilst Nintendo looks down at you judging your life decisions, and if you've been planning to dump those ROMs online, it was nice knowing you. It's proved how scarily fragile digital media is, with how they can be taken off in a matter of a second. But there is still one question left to answer. Was this really one of the worst things Nintendo has ever done? What? No! This is the same company that accidentally spawned their greatest rival, for crying out loud. Of course this wasn't going to last forever. In fact, the writing has been on the wall long before the announcement. With the exact same thing happening to the Wii Shop channel, Sony's attempt to close the PS3 and Vita storefronts that ultimately backfired, less support on the consoles in recent years, and the Switch is now in full speed with a massive library, and even then I think that looks to be on its way out. But the biggest thing the closures put to our attention is the significance of preserving media. No matter the quality or impact they have, they must be preserved for future generations to look back on, witness, and learn from. For example, I recently bought the original Star Wars trilogy with the theatrical cuts, not only to see how far visual effects have come, but also because I don't think they'll get another release anytime soon. And that's not all. I bought plenty of delisted games here and there, just to have them readily available at a moment's notice. Hell, I even bought Jump Force before that game bit the dust. I bought Jump Force! And as I stated way back in the beginning, according to a study by the Library of Congress, 75% of all silent films are considered lost. Which is a shame.
But another thing is that while it's important to preserve these games, it's more important to enjoy them. There are a lot of great games offered here, and the shopping experience was the last time purchasing digital games had a stupid amount of personality as opposed to today. Even presenting the new game as a present, that's cute as all heck. And to tell you the truth, I was never very sociable back in the day, and practically lost all contact to my high school peers, college peers, and pretty soon my uni peers too. These will be the closest I had to friends in a couple months' time. But despite those, the 3DS and Wii U were always there for me. Heck, my 3DS was even my date to the prom! And to be blunt, if it weren't for the closure, I'd still be glued on my Switch, completely unaware of the vast majority of games covered here. But I still remember seeing a Game Boy at a retro shop 7 years ago. After understanding the limitations, it made me convince my folks to set up an account for the eShop during a time we were uncertain about trusting digital storefronts. And I was never allowed on the Wii Shop channel, let alone bought anything. And after convincing them, opened up floodgate to new opportunities. And I don't know where I'd be right now had it not been for that old Game Boy. The first games I ever bought on there were Super Mario Bros., Mewtwo and Smash, Ice Climber Ball games. And the last were Bizarro, Mr. Pumpkin Adventure, and Animal Crossing Newly just to transfer my save data from my cartridge. Gee, what an anticlimactic ending. However, as long as we cherish these games and the memories they gave us, the eShop will live on. Now let's all raise a glass to the Nintendo 3DS and Wii U eShop. There'll never be another digital storefront quite like you. Thanks for watching.